The story The One Within the Villainess is one of my favorite mangas and stories ever. And I've seen a lot of things about it where people talk about, oh, isn't she lying to, what's his name? The Demon King? Because she's Emmy's Remelia, not her own Remelia. And, well, I think that's true. I wanted to talk a little bit more about that idea and, like, maybe some points against it. So, the story itself is the story of the villainous Romelia, who is taken over by a person from Japan who just wants Romelia to be happy and does all these things. And then the Star Maiden, the main character of the game that they got transported into, um, sort of tries to steal back everything that Emmy, who is in the body of Romelia, has taken. And Romelia is still around, her soul's still around. She can observe everything, but she can't actually interact with everything. And eventually, the Star Maiden I, frames her, and Emmy um, basically falls unconscious and is unable to react, and that's when Romelia takes back over. And Romelia's goal is to take revenge on the Star Maiden and the other people who wronged her, and to make sure that Emmy has a good life. And she does this by being resourceful. She um, uses all the tools around her. She makes uses of all the resources and people around her. And her goal is to make it so that that Emmy can return to this life and be happy. Now, this is a revenge story, so, well, Remelia does try to get revenge. And as being the villainess, she is quite prone to villainous tendencies. As you can clearly see here, this premium item shop. I'll tear it all apart. Um, you know, not wanting to kill the Star Maiden in order to torture her further, that type of stuff. It is a revenge plot. And one of the great things about this one is that the characters actually go through with their revenge. They don't cop out, they don't compromise, they have a plan and they stick to it, which I think is really refreshing. Sometimes when all you read are goody two shoes forgiving everyone. Uh, anyway, and she can be seen as a little bit manipulative, right? It it will also be helpful to have Sophia. Many young noble girls in the throes of puberty have a confused sort of crush on backing me, right? So she sees the value of other people, um, and sort of uses them to her own advantage, um, and we also see that she uses people to her advantage and sort of and she manipulates them, which is totally something that a villainess would do, right? She makes use of everyone to further her goals, which is not unlike a protagonist. The only thing is that the protagonist is like, oh, this is good for the good of the people. She uh, outwardly states it like that, but inwardly it's for her own internal goals. Um, and we also see that, she always says that it's her portrayal of Emmy, or Emmy's Remelia. And this is the main point that people bring up when they're like, oh, it feels so fake. Um, I don't like Remelia because Angel fell in love with Emmy's Remelia, not the real Remelia. Because the real Remelia, as we can see from all this in our monologue, is quite um, the villain and wants revenge and isn't quite as forgiving and moral as Emmy. Um, you know, when Pina gets, or the Star Maiden gets imprisoned, as for me, I will do nothing. I don't need your atonement or your remorse. I won't even allow you to repent. You are a cispit of malice. From now on, you'll be steeped in nothing but ugly filth, sobbing in wretched misery as you suffer through a life of torment. you will rot away reaping what you sowed. Right? So very unforgiving, and that's sort of Remelia's inclination and nature. Um, but we can also see that she isn't just that. I feel as though Angel has embraced the most precious part of me, my dignity itself. If you can love Emmy's Remelia this much, then I know I can love you too. Again, here she's saying Emmy's Remelia. I am Emmy's Remelia after all. It's simply a matter of course. This is referring to her being kind. However, if it was a statement, it would have just been a period after. There is a little question mark here which shows that maybe she that hints maybe at the fact that maybe this is that um this is something that she has started to do after developing a little bit of compassion, and we can sort of see through the story that when she's by Angel's side, when I'm by your side that I feel most like Emmy's Remelia. So please keep looking at me for the rest of your life with your beautiful eyes of truth that don't tolerate lies, right? So she admits that she feels like Emmy's Remelia, right? And we can see here that she loves Emmy, who is the person who raised her that she was today. And we can see when she's talking about the play, she wants to convey the joy of living, because it's Emmy who is the person who helped her grow into who she was today by loving her, caring for her, and trying to secure her future. Sort of like a mother would. And we can sort of see throughout the story, Remelia's grows as a protector, as like a mother, and in terms of like how much she cares, right? Because the first thing she does when she sees the child sick is that she tries to help the child, even though it doesn't work because demons are different from humans, and her magic doesn't work to heal the child quite as because of the difference in biology. Um, but her first instinct is to heal the child. If she was solely looking for um, uh, profits and advantages and not advantages, she would think first, okay, what should I do to gain the favor of everyone around me, right? That would be the thought process. And I'm sure the author would show that because they show the thought process behind the revenge and all those deep, dark thoughts. But the first thing we see in this scenario is that Rumelia goes and helps the child, showing that, quote unquote, Emmy's Rumelia is really just the part of Emmy that influenced Rumelia into being a kinder person, right? She says, "I think food tastes better when you can eat it with everyone. Together with everyone, right? This isn't Emmy's Rumelia talking. This is Rumelia talking. Maybe not Rumelia the villainess, but this is the current Rumelia talking, right? Um, right. So I truly believe that humans and demons can work side by side to create a peaceful world, right? Rumelia is the one who's talking here. It's not always just Emmy. She may think in her monologue, oh, this is what Emmy would do, but she's naturally starting to make these types of choices, right? When Emmy first falls unconscious, I'll make sure to eat all sorts of Emmy's favorite foods. Just as she nurtured me all these years, I'll make sure she can always eat her favorites as well, right? This is showing that she is developing this level of care naturally, even though that naturally comes to her, even though it's not applied to everyone, and she still has those villainous tendencies. The love that Emmy showed and gave to her allowed Rumelia to sort of be able to have that type of love, right? We can see she's sort of rationalizing her own charitable decisions. I just happened to be in a good mood, so I gave a little more charity than I should. That's all, right? We can see the context of this, her giving dried fruits to a little girl after she saved the little girl, right? This is more demonstration of Remelia not just being this evil villainess, although that is a part of who she is. It's showing that she is more than just a villainess. She's more than just this kind-hearted person. She has all these different sides to her that not not everyone gets to see, and not everyone who reads it sees these sides to her, right? Like, look how happy she is to um to be thanked for um starting this the village, right, with the flowers and everything. She's sort of stunned that people would go this far for her, and she looks pretty happy about it. It's not just a, oh, haha, the villagers are on my side, I can exploit them more. It's a genuine amazement that people would care that much for her, and gratefulness of that. You can sort of see it in her expression. Oh man, the art's good in this. You know, and she talks about creating a world where people can live in peace, and how um you know, her sincere and honest thoughts are sort of, as she describes it, being in touch with Emmy's thoughts is truly fulfilling, in the fact that she's starting to think more like Emmy. This isn't because she's been, maybe because she's been emulating Emmy so long, maybe because she's been loved by Emmy so much. She starts to think like Emmy, she starts to act like Emmy in terms of compassion and helping other people, even though that isn't in her natural disposition. Um, Partially because her father rate was seems to be um, quite transactional and not the best father, and the people surrounding her weren't all that good of people, which is maybe why in the original she grew up so bad. And, like, you know, typically when people grow up with when loved, they tend to end up being much happier, much more secure, and loving, you know, being able to love others. And Emmy was that person to Romelia. And we can see this isn't just like a one time, like, even after Emmy soul leaves Romelia, she still is that kind hearted person. Otherwise, Angel would have, you know, probably packed up and left. But we can see she takes the time out of her work and her break to come back and see her kids who made sweets for their first time. That is not something someone who's just a villain is pretending to be nice would do. That's something a mother would do who cares about their children and wants to love them, right? And we could sort of see this, the main source of, the main way we see this love is her love directed toward Rumelia, right? She says that she'll remember all of it, the memories of Emmy or her, even if Emmy loses them all, and that she'll hold them dear to her heart, right? And she is a person who had such bad luck in life, right? Not loved by her parents, her fiance, the world seemed to hate her, um, and she never got something that she wanted, right? And so her existence was very miserable, but because she want and because of this, she sort of gave up on herself, and you know, she thinks that to herself that she would have been better off never being born before Emmy comes into her life. But Emmy is this person who's so nice, who's so kind, who wishes for Remelia's best interest, that it actually makes her happy and glad to have been born, right? And we can see sort of this change from like this evil, neglected child who's looking for attention and who's quite lonely, into this motherly figure who's received love, who wants to give it back out into the world, and who wants to become like this better person. And sort of that's, I think, what some people miss when they look at the One Within the Villainess. They see the villainess Rumelia, they see her revenge plot, like the revenge plot, and her going through with it. They see all of her inner monologue on getting revenge, and they see her rationalize her good actions. Um, but her rationalizing her good actions after she's done them is sort of just like, oh, I'm. Is sort of like someone trying to convince themselves that they're a bad person, right? Like, oh, I only did this because of this, and it benefits me, even though they probably did it without thinking about it, just as, you know, Rumelia probably gave that girl some dried fruit without thinking about it too hard. Um, and so, really, we can see from the start this transition from, if we go back to some of the previous images. Um, this cold, calculating, uncaring uh, uh, girl who is very selfish, who doesn't have too many interests. Um, to a back to the end, to a motherly figure who just wants to give her love back to those who she cares about, who wants to protect those that she cares about. Even though she said she would destroy the premium item shop, which she did, she gives the shopkeeper a new life, a better life. Even though she says she would use the knight to advantage, her knight to her advantage, which she does, as you do with a knight, you have them do tasks, but she never really takes advantage of her knight in the same political way that um, she said that she was going to, or at least not directly. And yeah, it really just shows that Rumelia, while having like these villainous tendencies, while not being as predisposed to compassion, still has developed this sense of compassion. She still is that person that Angel fell in love with. Um, it wasn't all fake. There are still parts of the her that she acted out that Angel fell in love with. Right? I'm sure her during the battle was Rumelia. Her when purifying the ancient god was Rumelia. And maybe she may have been influenced by Emmy, and sort of that she calls that part of herself that has been influenced by Emmy's Rumelia, because that's who she's become after spending so much time watching and interacting and well just watching Emmy and sort of watching the kind of girl that she's become and seeing her memories. And yeah, maybe that gave you a bit more of a insight into this character that and the story. I highly suggest that you read it. I don't want to spoil too much about it. Um, Not that there's too much to spoil. It's pretty short. It's like 28 chapters. Um, yeah, I just thought I'd share this because I really like this story, and I sort of got annoyed when I saw people being like, "Oh, I hate the fact that she stays with Angel because it's not even Romelia that he's falling in love with. He's falling in love with Emmy." And again, to that I have to say, maybe at the start, Romelia is the villainess and definitely nothing like Emmy. But we can see her develop into the kind of person that Emmy was, even if she's not quite as kind, even if she's not quite as caring, doesn't have that first instinct toward compassion. She has developed that sense, and even if that isn't her first instinct, the fact that she keeps choosing compassion, you know, the active thought to choose compassion over doing villainous things, I think is enough to warrant the fact that she is in fact a good person, and that Angel falling in love with her isn't falling in love with Emmy, but falling in love with the person that Rumelia has chosen to be. Yeah, well, I hope you found this interesting and that maybe you gained a new perspective. Um, Goodbye.